Hi, folks. Welcome to Crisco's Corner. Welcome back to Cordisco's Corner podcast. Today we have just two guys shooting a breeze. We're going to go over an article from timcast.com. Those of you that heard about it, it's the Colorado truck driver. They got a 110-year prison sentence for having his brakes go out. And on the podcast with us today is Mike, returning guest. And Mike is a former long-haul truck driver, so he's got lots to say. So, hi, Mike.
Hey, how are we?
Let me read the headline first. Colorado DA to reconsider 110-year prison sentence for truck driver deadly pileup. The motion comes after a major public outcry and a petition with nearly 5 million signatures that caught the eye of Kim Kardashian West. The 110-year sentence recently imposed on the truck driver involving a deadly pileup in Colorado that killed 4 people and injured dozens of others prompted a significant outcry and petition signed by nearly 5 million people. So, as a former long-haul driver for many years, what do you think of this whole thing?
I think it's ridiculous that he got 110 years. I do feel sorry for the people that died. Now, there's a couple of things that I've noticed going from article to article locally as far as their area goes from what I've been able to pick up from the internet. And then, of course, all your major media sources as well. They don't mention that there was another accident on I-70, and he basically was going too fast down that hill after he lost his brakes, and he hit traffic that was held up due to that accident. The other thing is he's 23 years old, so at best he only had 2 years' worth of experience. So you add it all together, and of course it's a recipe for disaster, and the DA was basically using the fact that he didn't use one of the emergency escape routes.
Now, I'm not sure if the DA called for all that high sentence or the judge gave it to him or it was one of those
deals. My understanding, it was some sort of a minimal sentence.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, that's what those minimum laws that you make, like they're complaining about the drug things, that there's a minimum time, and the minimum time is really high, so the judge had no choice.
That's because he was convicted on 27 different felonies.
Yeah, but the judge can do it so you do it concurrently. In other words, if say the one charge is 10 years to 20 years, that's what he would get, because you don't serve the time one at a time. But
well, one interesting point I want to make is, as a truck driver, especially with the size and the weight of the vehicle that you're driving, many drivers are literally a second away from a complete and utter disaster, just like this guy had, because anything can happen. Well,
here's an interesting thing here. As Colorado law required the imposition of the sentence in this case, the law also permits the court to reconsider its sentence in an exceptional case involving unusual and extenuating circumstances. This would allow for the conditions to be met for a modification of the defendant's sentence, as was discussed by the people in the initial sentence hearing, the motion states.
Yeah, but what does that exactly mean? Because, what is he going to get, 85 years compared to 110? There's still all those. Even if he only got 1 year per count, it's still going to be 27 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah, here's one of what the lawyer said. He was not drunk or under the influence. His brakes on the semi-tractor failed. Another shocking and unfair part of this case is that the judge didn't want to sentence him to a lengthy sentence. However, because of the mandatory minimums in Colorado, his hands were tied.
Yeah.
Mandatory minimums take away judicial discretion and need to end. Now, if I remember correctly, mandatory minimums were put in because of the liberal and progressive judges that were letting people walk.
Yepper.
And they were on the books since, late 80s, 90s, a lot of these? Especially the drug ones.
Oh, yeah, especially the drug wars, yeah.
And now it's come back to bite them because the liberal judges were letting people walk or giving them time served or giving them house arrest, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. Here's the guy here. Now, he might not be. He looks Hispanic. He might be Syrian or whatever, but...
He's Cuban.
He's Cuban? Okay. Yeah, so here he is. Here's a guy that flees from Cuba because of the horrible government they have and how they treat their people. He gets a job driving truck, and now he's in court looking at 110 years.
Yeah. My God, you can kill somebody, or you can be a sex offender and get a whole hell of a lot less time.
Yeah, I
You know
think
what I
if
mean?
I'm not mistaken, there was a mother that killed one or two of her children from neglect, and she got like 4 to 10. At the same time,
Yeah,
this guy got 110.
yeah, yeah. What happened to him is he got what's called brake fade. And for any of your listeners that don't understand what that means in a truck, is trucks have what's called drum brakes. They're not discs like you have on your cars. And what happens is the brakes get too hot, and then the drums expand, and then it doesn't have the braking power that it would have normally had. And the mountains out west are huge.
I think,
And a
I
truck
think,
can.
if I remember, it was a 4,000 or 6,000 foot incline drop,
Yep.
which is pretty
Yep.
steep.
Yeah, that is steep. It was a heavy grade.
Yeah, they said it was a tunnel that's right outside. I believe they said Denver, and that's where the grade starts to go down dramatically. Anybody that's driven on the highway, you'll see anywhere in the country, you'll see trucks, and they'll see a downhill or tipping. You see a tipping sign for a truck, but it's warning the trucks there's a downhill grade coming here.
Yeah, so it makes me wonder if he was paying attention. Was it the lack of experience? I mean, basically, they're trying to say that it was his fault because he didn't hit the emergency ramp. Well, the emergency ramp can be pretty uncomfortable too.
Now, do you think
And
you should walk away with nothing?
I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say that because ultimately he's responsible for the truck.
No, even though the company might be responsible. I mean, he drove it, and so he's got his hands on the wheel. So, what are you going to do?
My question is what exactly, or how was he trained? Should the company be held accountable? Was he, how was his logs? How was his load? I mean, how heavy was his truck? And again, being 23, he didn't have a whole hell of a lot of experience as a driver. So it makes me wonder, for him to come down a grade that big, not geared down, okay, who trained him and how did they train him? That's what I want to know.
Now, as a former long-haul driver, the DA I'm just reading this from some of the news reports. I'm sure it's somewhat accurate because you can't believe everything you read.
Right.
That he went by several off-ramp stops. In other words, for those, what do they call those? I forget.
They're basically emergency ramps. They're they're filled with sand, I believe.
And there's a steep incline that slows you down right away as you go up the hill to the ramp, the off ramp.
That is correct. Yes.
And they said he went by several of those before he was in the accident. That's probably what sunk him.
Yeah, it is. And again, that goes back to my question about training. Is, did someone say to him, look, you get going too fast, you go into one of these emergency ramps?
Now, I'm assuming.
On the other hand, though,
all right.
On the other hand, those ramps can be dangerous too for the driver. Or another question I would have too is, if you go into one of those emergency ramps, normally you have to get towed back out because it sinks all your wheels right in because it's basically filled with sand.
Or it might gut out the bottom of the truck and some of the equipment. It might cause a lot of damage.
That too. I have a lot of questions.
Now, I'm just assuming, of course, as common sense says, that when these guys take their training and get their license, that they don't have to take one of those off-ramp emergencies as part of their test, I would assume.
No, they do not.
So, I don't know, man.
Here's one of the biggest problems when you start talking about training, okay? And all the big trucking companies, J.B. Hunt, Schneider, the federal government, and all of them are basically accept 6 weeks worth of training. And now you're going to go from a car to an 80,000-pound vehicle.
Now you're talking about 6 weeks worth of training. Is it a number of hours?
There's a number of hours that equals out to about 6 weeks.
Okay, so you're looking at, we'll say, 35 a week, so we'll say 200 hours of training.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay, that's a lot, actually. I didn't think it was that much.
Well, it sounds like a lot. But it depends. I mean, think about this for a second. If you're a driver that normally stays in the south, and you come up north in the middle of December and you hit a major
okay.
snowstorm,
Yeah, okay.
you know you're going to have no idea what you're doing. And then on top of that, think of it this way: you get 6 weeks worth of training. It all sounds all well and good. Well, you get a job, say running hazardous material. Now you're driving down the road with an 80,000-pound vehicle that's full of glycerin.
Yeah, okay.
I'm sorry, 6 weeks worth of training is not enough.
No, I think I'm just guessing, of course, because I'm a human being like anybody else, and as he's coming down, his brakes aren't working. I think he was just scared to death to go in the off ramp to.
That's what I think happened. I think he was scared to death. He panicked. He had no idea, didn't know what to do.
Because he went by the first one. Okay, maybe the brakes will start working after I go some more. And then he went by the second one. I guess there was a number of them because of the steep incline. They put a lot of them. Yep. And he just calculated wrong. He just thought the brakes would come back, not knowing why they failed because he was inexperienced.
Another question is, Sue, speaking about being inexperienced, if he started down that major incline and tried to downshift and did what we call lost a gear, at that speed, it would have been very difficult to get that truck back into gear. And what it is, see, when you downshift and double clutch in a truck, you've got to match some RPMs up with the ground speed to get it in gear. Otherwise, it'll never go into gear.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So I'm wondering if he got going too fast.
Well, the thing of it is, though, I wonder, as he went past the first emergency off-ramp, I'll see if the brakes come back. He goes by the second one. I'm assuming now, because of the incline, his speed is accelerating.
Oh, yeah. He's going a lot faster.
So now he's doing 85, they said, when he hit that car in the accident. So he might have been doing only 60, and then his brakes failed. He went by the first ramp. He might have been doing only 65, 70 when he went by the second one. And he just might have, his inexperience, he just misjudged it.
Maybe.
And then it was too late.
Another thing is, too, is he also might have thought that everything could have been fine at the bottom of the hill because nobody was supposed to be there, and then there's an accident.
Because traffic runs normally and all. Okay, yeah.
Yep. And my other question is, did he have a radio in the truck?
Yes, there's a lot of unanswered stuff.
Yeah.
But anyway, I want to get your take on it.
CB radio in the truck, and if other drivers may have been warning him, if he didn't have a CB,
well,
and then also,
it's hard to say because you don't know how long it was from when we got out of the tunnel to the accident. We don't know if that's 10 miles or it's 2 miles or it's 1 mile.
That's it. And my other question is, the guy's from Cuba. How is his English?
Oh, no, you don't have to understand English, I don't think, to know that you're in deep crap.
Well, no, it's not that at all, actually. If this was a situation where an interpreter could have been in there to help him pass the written test for a CDL, for example, what's to say he could read all the signs?
Well, I'm sure this isn't his first run, and being in Colorado, he knows about emergency drive-offs. I mean, he's got to know. Yeah. He has to know. I mean, I would
certainly hope so.
I was in Mexico when I was a kid, and on the corner is a red sign, and it was what's a stop sign? 6-sided sign. That was red that said Alto on it. Well, I knew that was a stop sign. I didn't have to understand Spanish to know that.
Right.
So this guy, I'm sure he knew, because there's a picture of the truck. And then it shows the turnoff. I mean, plus talking to other truckers over time, I'm sure any of them have said, these guys hang around sometimes, and they say, oh, I remember that one time I had to pull off, or I almost pulled off an emergency thing. So I'm pretty sure he knew what they were.
I would think so. I would certainly hope so. I personally think that he panicked and didn't know what to do, or it was a little bit of he panicked and didn't know what to do. And the other issue was the fact that there was an accident down on the bottom of the hill. Traffic was backed up, and obviously there was nothing warning him of that.
Yeah, and he was hoping that as he went down and escalated, as the grade started to go up or flatten out, that the problem would solve itself and he could pull over.
Yep. And lo
it-
and behold, you got all those people down there just sitting in traffic waiting for this accident to get cleared.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those split decisions that. Anyway, though, thanks, Mike, for your take on this, and we'll see what happens to this guy.
Just one more thing. Just remember, at 65 miles an hour, fully loaded, a truck takes about a football field to stop.
Right, and he was doing 85 supposedly.
And if he's doing 85 and his brakes aren't working right, yeah, good luck.
Yeah. So anyway, I wanted to get your take on this whole thing, and I appreciate it. You got a lot of experience driving truck.
23 years.
So we'll say to everybody, thanks for listening. Until next time, goodbye and good luck.